In the heart of Moscow, far from the prying eyes of the bustling city life, lay the decrepit remains of Khovrinskaya Hospital. A structure once teeming with life, now a hollow echo of despair. It stood, or more accurately, crumbled, in the northern district of Khovrino, a monument to Soviet ambition, and its ultimate failure. This is the story of one of Russia's most haunted buildings, a place where the veil between this world and the next is said to be perilously thin. Khovrinskaya was not just any hospital, it was the stuff of nightmares, the kind that clings to the edges of your consciousness long after you've awakened. Its reputation for hauntings and paranormal occurrences had spread far and wide, drawing in the curious, the thrill-seekers, and those with an insatiable appetite for the macabre. But what was it about this place that so captivated the minds of those who heard its tale? What malignant forces were said to roam its dilapidated halls? These were questions only the bravest dared to answer. The origins of Khovrinskaya Hospital are rooted deep in the annals of Russian history. Built on the sacred grounds where soldiers from the War of 1812 once found respite, it was as if the sorrows of the past had seeped into the very soil upon which it was constructed. The hospital's architecture was as ornate as it was imposing, a shaped colossus of Soviet design with ceilings stretching skyward, as if in an attempt to escape the earth below. Initially, Khovrinskaya's purpose was noble. It was to be a maternity hospital, a place where new life was to be welcomed into the world. Its corridors were to echo with the first cries of countless infants, the air to be filled with the sweet scent of new beginnings. But that was not to be. For reasons that remain shrouded in mystery, the hospital was never to fulfill its intended role. The year was 1985, and the facility's doors, which should have opened to the sound of celebration, instead closed with a silence that was deafening. The hospital's closure was as unexpected as it was abrupt. Was it financial difficulties or structural problems due to the unstable marshland it stood upon? Or perhaps it was something more sinister. Rumors swirled that the hospital was cursed, built atop an old cemetery, its restless spirits unwilling to share their eternal resting place with the living. Abandoned by those who had conceived it, Khovrinskaya Hospital became a husk, a mere shadow of what it might have once been. The once pristine walls were soon cloaked in graffiti, the windows, eyes to the building's soul, shattered, leaving it blind to the world outside. Nature, ever the opportunist, began to reclaim what was once hers, wrapping the building in a suffocating embrace of vines and weeds. But it wasn't just the flora and fauna that laid claim to the forsaken hospital. Stories began to emerge of shadows that moved with intent, of chilling whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. They told of ghostly figures dressed in the garb of Soviet nurses, wandering the halls, forever tending to patients that were not there. These specters were joined by tales of darker entities, wraiths of those whose lives had been cruelly snatched away within the hospital's confines. The allure of Khovrinskaya's dark history proved irresistible to many. Like moths to a flame, they were drawn to the hospital's decaying corpse. Some sought to debunk the legends, armed with skepticism and flashlights. Others, those who believed in the whispers of the night, came in search of something that would affirm their deepest fears, that we are not alone, and that death may not be the end. The hospital became a siren call to urban explorers and paranormal investigators from across the globe. They prowled its silent wards and peered into its abandoned operating rooms, hoping to catch a glimpse of the otherworldly. And many did. The evidence, they claimed, was undeniable. Recordings captured the faint sound of a baby's cry, a sound that should not have been there. Photographs revealed orbs of light where there were no sources, and chillingly, on more than one occasion, thermal cameras picked up the figure of a person where no person should have been. The question remained, why did the hospital close? What truths lay buried within its forsaken walls? Theories abounded, each more unsettling than the last. Some said that the hospital had been a front, that its true purpose was far more malevolent, that it was a place of experimentation, of unspeakable acts. Others spoke of a malevolent force, an entity that had taken root within the hospital and that had driven out those who sought to tame it. In the shadowed corridors of the derelict Khovrinskaya Hospital, darkness lingered like a persistent fog, thick with the memories of incidents too grim for daylight's comfort. It was here, amid the crumbling Soviet architecture, where whispers of the past spun a web of horror that ensnared the souls of the living. The year was 1990, and Khovrinskaya's descent into infamy began with a crime that sent ripples of fear through the heart of Moscow. A woman's life was brutally extinguished within these walls, her last breaths echoing through the empty wards. The details were sparse, the motive unclear, but one thing was certain: the hospital had claimed its first known victim, and with her death, the building's malevolent reputation was born. As the years crept by, the hospital's notoriety grew, fed by the tragic events that seemed drawn to it. In 2005, it was the setting for an act of despair as a 16-year-old boy, shrouded by his own darkness, took a fatal plunge down an unused elevator shaft. His body was found broken, a stark reminder of the thin line between life and the void beyond. A makeshift memorial on the second floor marked the spot where hope had been lost, and although his name was eventually forgotten, his story was woven into the hospital's sinister tapestry. The air within Khovrinskaya's walls was thick with the stench of decay and the weight of untold stories. Other deaths were whispered about, each adding to the building's grim legend. Criminals and vagrants found refuge in its desolation, their illicit activities shielded by the hospital's foreboding presence. It was as if the hospital itself beckoned those with darkness in their hearts, offering sanctuary in exchange for their sinister deeds. As the tales of the hospital's dark history seeped into the city's consciousness, so too did the stories of hauntings and paranormal phenomena. Former hospital staff, long since passed, were said to roam the halls, their apparitions glimpsed in the fleeting shadows or heard in the distant, disembodied footsteps that echoed through the empty rooms. These spectral nurses and doctors were trapped in a perpetual loop, their duties unending, their patients unseen. More disturbing still were the accounts of satanic rituals performed within the hospital's dilapidated walls. The Nemosta Satanist sect, as whispered by locals, had taken to the abandoned hospital as their unholy sanctuary. The air grew heavy with the residue of their dark ceremonies, the pentagrams and symbols scrawled across the walls evidence of their presence. It was said that their rituals had left an indelible mark on the building, inviting entities of a realm best left unexplored. Urban explorers, drawn by the lure of the hospital's haunted reputation, ventured into its depths armed with nothing but flashlights and a desire to uncover the truth. Many emerged with tales that turned skeptics into believers. They spoke of chilling encounters, of voices in the dark, and of being watched by unseen eyes. Personal experiences varied, but the common thread was undeniable fear, a primal recognition that something otherworldly lurked within Khovrinskaya's walls. There were those who captured evidence of the paranormal, a fleeting shadow here, an inexplicable cold spot there. Digital recorders picked up the faint sounds of sobbing when no one was present, and cameras inexplicably malfunctioned in certain rooms, as if the spirits themselves were camera shy. But perhaps the most chilling accounts came from those who experienced the feeling of being touched by invisible hands, or the sensation of being followed, only to turn and find no one there. The hospital played tricks on the mind, or perhaps it was the dead reaching out, desperate to be remembered, to be acknowledged by the living. In the end, the dark history incidents, and the hauntings of Khovrinskaya Hospital melded into a single, inescapable narrative. The building may have been a structure of bricks and mortar, but it was also a vessel for the stories of those who had passed through its doors, both in life and in death. The hospital's legacy was etched not only in the annals of urban legend but also in the whispered fears of those who dared to walk its cursed halls. For in the silence of its abandonment, Khovrinskaya Hospital spoke volumes, its voice a siren call to those who sought the thrill of the unknown, the terror of the night. It was a place where history and horror collided, leaving behind a haunting that would endure long after the building itself had succumbed to the ravages of time.